Okay, today is the 8th of August, and we're coming to the last part of the Khandha Samyutta. The next sutta we're going to read is 22.99 at Savatthi. The Buddha said, monks, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. The first point is not discerned of beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Sorry for a moment. I should know the samsara is the round of rebirths. There's no beginning. There comes a time, monks, when the great ocean dries up and evaporates and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. There comes a time, monks, when Simaru, the king of mountains, burns up and perishes and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. There comes a time, monks, when the great earth burns up and perishes and no longer exists. But still I say there is no making an end of suffering for those beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Stop here for a moment. So the first part, the Buddha says, time has no beginning. This second part is really saying that time has no end. Unless you get rid of ignorance and craving, you will continue to wander on the round of rebirths, and there will be no end to it. So if you understand the Dhamma, then you will make an effort to practice the spiritual path and get out samsara. Not like some people who are ignorant, they think they want to stay on in samsara and help other beings. In the Buddha's teachings, all the beings are in our mind, basically like a dream. So unless you wake up, you will continue to suffer endlessly. Suppose, monks, a dog tied up on a leash is bound to a strong post or pillar. It would just keep on running and revolving around that same post or pillar. So too, the unlearned, ordinary worldling regards body as self, regards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as self, etc. Or as belonging to self, or self as being in the aggregates, or the aggregates as being in the self. He just keeps running and revolving around body, around feeling, around perception, around volition, around consciousness. As he keeps on running and revolving around them, he is not free from body, not free from feeling, not free from perception, not free from volition, not free from consciousness. He is not free from birth, aging and death, not free from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair, not free from suffering, I say. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is giving a very good simile, just like a dog tied to a pillar. You will keep running around and around that pillar. So too, we run around the round of rebirths, and the pillar represents the 5 aggregates. We are chained to the 5 aggregates. And what is this chain? The chain is the chain of desire and lust for the 5 aggregates. Because we have desire and lust for the 5 aggregates. Wherever we go, it's only around these 5 aggregates, namely body and mind. But the learned, noble disciple does not regard body as self, nor feeling, perception, volition, consciousness as self. He no longer keeps running and revolving around body, around feeling, perception, volition, consciousness. As he no longer keeps running and revolving around them, he is freed from body, freed from feeling, perception, volition, consciousness. He is freed from birth, aging and death, freed from sorrow, lamentation, pain, displeasure and despair, freed from suffering, I say. So that's the end of the sutta. So only when we know the Dhamma and we eliminate ignorance and we cut off the craving for the five aggregates which we take to be the self, or as belonging to the self, or as being in the self, or the self as being in the five aggregates. So when we cut off the craving for the five aggregates, then we are no longer tied to this pillar of the five aggregates, and we also stop running around samsara. The next sutta, 22.100. Monks, this samsara is without discoverable beginning. The first point is not discern of beings roaming and wandering on, hindered by ignorance and fettered by craving. Suppose, monks, a dog tied up on a leash was bound to a strong post or pillar. If it walks close to that post or pillar. If it stands close to that post or pillar. If it sits close to that post or pillar. If it lies down close to that post or pillar. So too, monks, the unlearned, ordinary worldling regards body thus. This is mine, this I am, this is myself. He regards feeling, perception, volition, consciousness thus. This is mine, this I am, this is myself. If he walks close to those five aggregates of attachment. If he stands close to those five aggregates of attachment. If he sits close to those five aggregates of attachment. If he lies down, he lies close to those five aggregates of attachment. Stop here for a moment. So this simile is very similar to the previous one. He is always close to that pillar of the five aggregates. Therefore, monks, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus. For a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. Monks, have you seen the picture called Faring On? Yes, Venerable Sir. Even that picture called Faring On has been designed in its diversity by the mind. Yet the mind is even more diverse than that picture called Faring On. Stop here for a moment. This picture is supposed to be used by some people, and they go around carrying this picture. And this picture is supposed to be very complicated. I say it's very diverse. But the mind that designed that picture has to be more diverse to design that picture. Therefore, monks, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus. For a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. Monks, I do not see any other order of living beings so diversified as those in the animal realm. Even those beings in the animal realm have been diversified by the mind. Yet the mind is even more diverse than those beings in the animal realm. Stop here for a moment. The Buddha is saying the animal realm has such a great variety of beings. And all of them are created by the mind. For example, in one sutta, the Buddha says there are some people who are very sly. They do things secretly, stealthily and all that. And then they end up being born as a cat or a rat or a snake. Those type of beings that go secretively. And they don't even go straight. Sometimes they go bend like that. Therefore, monks, one should often reflect upon one's own mind thus. For a long time, this mind has been defiled by lust, hatred, and delusion. Through the defilements of the mind, beings are defiled. With the cleansing of the mind, beings are purified. Suppose, monks, an artist or a painter, using dye or lac or turmeric or indigo or crimson, would create the figure of a man or a woman, complete in all its features, on a well-polished plank or wall or canvas. So too, when the unlearned, ordinary worldling produces anything, it's only body that he produces, only feeling that he produces, only perception, volition, consciousness that he produces. What do you think, monks? Is body permanent or impermanent? Impermanent verbal sir. Is what is impermanent, suffering or happiness? Suffering verbal sir. Is what is impermanent, suffering, subject to change, fit to be regarded as this is mine, this I am, this myself. No verbal sir. Seeing thus, noble disciple becomes disenchanted in the body, and similarly for feeling, perception, volition and consciousness, and being dispassionate towards them, and then he becomes liberated. So the interesting part about this sutta is that it is our mind that creates our world. So people with an evil mind see themselves reborn in an evil world. They suffer. 22.101, at Savatthi, the Buddha said, monks, I say that the destruction of the asavas is for one who knows and sees, not for one who does not know and does not see. For one who knows what, who sees what, that the destruction of the asavas come about. Such is body, such its origin, such its passing away. Similarly, such is feeling, perception, volition, consciousness, such their origin, such their passing away. It is for one who knows thus, for one who sees thus, that the destruction of the asavas comes about. Stop here for a moment. So here the Buddha is saying that if we want to destroy the asavas and become liberated, attain arahanthood, we have to understand the five aggregates. Because it is the five aggregates that we cling to, that we crave for, namely the body and the mind. So if you understand the five aggregates and you understand how they arise and how they pass away, that they are impermanent, a source of suffering and always changing, and because you have no control over it, it is not yours, so it's not fit to regard the five aggregates as I or mine. So if a person understands all this, then he knows and sees the five aggregates, and then he will attain liberation. Monks, when a monk does not dwell devoted to development, this word development is bhavana, even though such a wish as this might arise in him, oh, that my mind might be liberated from the asavas by non-clinging, yet his mind is not liberated from the asavas by non-clinging. For what reason? It should be said, because of non-development. Because of not developing what? Because of not developing the four intense states of recollection, the four right efforts, the four bases of psychic power, the five faculties, the five powers, the seven factors of enlightenment, the Noble Eightfold Path. Stop here for a moment. These, if you count them up, they are 37 total. They're called the 37 Bodhipakkya Dhammas. And the Buddha says, when you practice the Noble Eightfold Path fully, then you automatically cultivate all these 37 Bodhipakkya Dhammas. So here the Buddha is saying that to attain liberation, you must develop these 37 Bodhipakkya Dhammas, or develop this Noble Eightfold Path fully. Without developing the Noble Eightfold Path fully, it is impossible to attain liberation, enlightenment. Suppose, monks, there was a hen with 8, 10 or 12 eggs that she had not covered, incubated and nurtured properly. Even though such a wish as this might arise in her, oh, that my chicks might pierce their shells with the points of their claws and beaks and hatch safely. Yet the chicks are incapable of piercing their shells with the points of their claws and beaks and hatching safely. For what reason? Because that hen with 8, 10 or 12 eggs had not covered, incubated and nurtured them properly. In other words, the hen has not sat on the eggs and just makes a wish that the eggs will hatch. So too monks, when a monk does not dwell devoted to development, even though such a wish as this might arise in him, Oh, that my mind might be liberated from the asavas by non-clinging. Yet his mind is not liberated from the asavas by non-clinging. For what reason? It should be said, because of non-development, because of not developing what? Because of not developing what we read just now, the 4 intense states of recollection, the 4 right efforts, the 4 bases of psychic power, the 5 faculties, the 5 powers, the 7 factors of enlightenment, the Noble Eightfold Path, and they are all called the 37 Bodhipakkhiya Dhammas. I'll stop here for a moment. So just like that hen, that fowl, that hen, she does not do her work of sitting on the eggs, and wants the eggs to hatch, it is not possible. So in the same way, the monk, he does not do his work and cultivate the 37 Bodhipakkhiya Dhammas, then it is impossible for him to attain liberation even though he makes the wish. That's why the Buddha said in another sutta that what we want in this world cannot be attained by prayers, cannot be attained by vows, cannot be attained by thinking of what you want, making a wish and all that. You have to work for it. Then the Buddha said, monks, when a monk dwells devoted to development, even though no such wish as this might arise in him, oh, that my mind might be liberated from the asavas by non-clinging. Yet his mind is liberated from the asavas by non-clinging. For what reason? It should be said, because of development. Because of developing what? Because of developing the 4 intense states of recollection, the 4 right efforts, the 4 bases of psychic power, the 5 faculties, the 5 powers, the 7 factors of enlightenment, the Noble Eightfold Path. Suppose, monks, there was a hen with 8, 10 or 12 eggs that she had covered, incubated and nurtured properly. Even though no such wish as this might arise in her, oh, that my chicks might pierce their shells with the points of their claws and beaks and hatch safely. Yet the chicks are capable of piercing their shells with the points of their claws and beaks and of hatching safely. For what reason? Because that hen with 8, 10 or 12 eggs had covered, incubated and nurtured them properly. So too monks, when a monk dwells devoted to development, even though no such wish as this might arise in him, oh, that my mind might be liberated from the asavas by non-clinging, yet his mind is liberated from the asavas by non-clinging. For what reason? It should be said, because of development. Because of developing what? Because of developing the 37 Bodhipakkhiya Dhammas. Stop here for a moment. So you see the point here, this simile actually is a very famous simile. The point here is that you must do your work. No need to make a wish. You just do your work, the results will come automatically. But a lot of people, they haven't finished doing their work. They keep wishing, why I cannot get into jhana? Why I cannot get sotapanna and all these things. Very simple, according to this sutta, you haven't finished doing your work. So just keep doing your work. No need to make that wish. When you finish doing your work, the results will come automatically. That's a very important point. So next time you practice, don't hope for this, don't hope for that. Just hope that you do your work. When monks, a carpenter or a carpenter's apprentice, looks at the handle of his axe, he sees the impressions of his fingers and his thumb. But he does not know so much of the axe handle has been worn away today, so much yesterday, so much earlier. But when it has worn away, the knowledge occurs to him that it has worn away. So too monks, when a monk dwells devoted to development, even though no such knowledge occurs to him, so much of my asavas have been worn away today, so much yesterday, so much earlier. Yet when they are worn away, the knowledge occurs to him that they have been worn away. Let's stop here for a moment. This axe is an instrument for planing the wood. Nowadays, of course, they have everything is electric. But when I was young, they used to hold the axe with two hands and plane the wood. But it looks like during the Buddha's days, they use one hand only. They hold it, one hand like that, and they plane the wood. Because they keep on doing this, after many years, their fingers are etched into the wood. The impression of the fingers gone into the wood. So this process of wearing away the wood takes a long time. And the carpenter doesn't know how much, any time he wears away. But after many years, when the finger marks are very prominent, then he knows that he has definitely worn away the wood. So it seems like this sutta implies that when you are doing your work on the spiritual path, you are not sure what stage you are at. Not absolutely sure until you have become enlightened. Then you become arahant. You finish your work, then only you are sure. Suppose, monks, there was a seafaring ship bound with rigging that had been worn away in the water for 6 months. It would be hauled up on dry land during the cold season, and its rigging would be further attacked by wind and sun. Inundated by rain from a rain cloud, the rigging would easily collapse and rot away. So too monks, when a monk dwells devoted to development, his fetters easily collapse and rot away. So this last simile is saying that when we do our work of developing the mind, slowly the fetters, the kilesas, the defilements automatically get worn away. So this is a very good sutta, saying very plainly, don't expect results. When we practice the spiritual path, don't be greedy for results. If you have not arrived at your result, it simply means you have not done enough work. So just keep doing the work, that's important. Don't keep thinking of the result. If you keep thinking of the result, that's an impediment. Your mind is going to the future, and your mind is not in the present. Going backwards into the past, that's a mistake. You start thinking of your past, all the things you used to enjoy, now you cannot enjoy after wearing the robe. And you look into the future, also a mistake, expecting this, expecting that. We read some other suttas that we should not go to the past and go to the future. So we just stay with the present moment. Sutta 22.102, at Savatthi, the Buddha said, monks, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust. It eliminates all lust for existence. It eliminates all ignorance. It uproots all conceit, I am. I'll stop here for a moment. So you see, this perception of impermanence, reflecting about impermanence, thinking about impermanence, seeing impermanence, is very fruitful. It is the most important thing because it eliminates so many things. Eliminates lust, sensual lust, eliminates lust, craving for existence, eliminates ignorance, all ignorance, and it uproots the conceit, the ego, I am. So if we constantly see impermanence, and we read the earlier suttas, see impermanence where? See impermanence in our 5 aggregates, our body, our feeling, perception, volition and consciousness. Because this is what we cling to. And if you realize that it's impermanent, constantly changing, if you cling to it, it's going to give you sakit hati, it's going to give you a lot of pain. So you have to practice to see impermanence of the 5 aggregates, and slowly we will let go. Just as monks in the autumn, a ploughman ploughing with a great ploughshare cuts through all the rootlets as he ploughs, so too when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust, all lust for existence, all ignorance, and the conceit I am. Just as monks, a rush cutter would cut down a rush, kind of bush, grab it by the top and shake it down and shake it out and thump it about. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust. It eliminates all lust for existence. It eliminates all ignorance. It uproots all conceit I am. Just as monks, when the stalk of a bunch of mangoes has been cut, all the mangoes attached to the stalk follow along with it. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust. It eliminates all lust for existence. It eliminates all ignorance. It uproots all conceit I am. Just as monks, all the rafters of a house with a peaked roof lead to the roof peak, slope towards the roof peak, and converge upon the roof peak, and the roof peak is declared to be their chief. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust. It eliminates all lust for existence. It eliminates all ignorance. It uproots all conceit I am. Just as monks, among fragrant roots, black orris is declared to be their chief. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust, all lust for existence, all ignorance, and all conceit I am. Just as monks, among fragrant hardwoods, red sandalwood is declared to be their chief. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust, all lust for existence, all ignorance, and all conceit I am. Just as monks, among fragrant flowers, jasmine is declared to be their chief. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust, all lust for existence, all ignorance, all conceit I am. Just as monks, all petty princes are the vassals of a wheel-turning monarch, and the wheel-turning monarch is declared to be their chief. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust, all lust for existence, all ignorance, all conceit I am. Just as monks, the radiance of all the stars does not amount to a 16th part of the radiance of the moon, and the radiance of the moon is declared to be their chief. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust, all lust for existence, all ignorance, and all conceit I am. Just as monks, in the autumn, when the sky is clear and cloudless, the sun ascending in the sky dispels all darkness from space as it shines and beams and radiates. So too, when the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, it eliminates all sensual lust, it eliminates all lust for existence, it eliminates all ignorance, it uproots all conceit I am. And how, monks, is the perception of impermanence developed and cultivated so that it eliminates all sensual lust, eliminates all lust for existence, eliminates all ignorance, and uproots all conceit I am. Such is body, such its origin, such its passing away. Similarly, such is feeling, perception, volition, and consciousness, such their origin, such their passing away. That is how the perception of impermanence is developed and cultivated, so that it eliminates all sensual lust, eliminates all lust for existence, eliminates all ignorance, and uproots all conceit I am. It's the end of the sutta. So, this sutta has given so many similes to stress the point that the perception of impermanence is chief. When we reflect on a lot of other things, the reflection on impermanence is the most important. But then you have to specifically see the impermanence of the five aggregates, like how they exist, dependent on what conditions, how they come into being, how they pass away. Then you see the results are so good. Eliminates all sensual lust, all lust for existence, all ignorance and all conceit. Now it looks like we're coming to the last sutta of the Khandha Samyutta, that is 22.122 on page 970. On one occasion, the Venerable Sariputta and the Venerable Mahathera were dwelling at Varanasi or Varanasi in the deer park at Isipatana. Then in the evening, the Venerable Mahathera emerged from seclusion, approached the Venerable Sariputta, exchanged greetings and said to him, "Friend Sariputta, what are the things that a virtuous monk should carefully attend to?" Stop here for a moment. You see, during the Buddha's time, sometimes you have 2 or 3 monks, they stay together. Maybe they go to a forest, like here, the deer park, and they stay together, and then they go on arms round together, come back together. So they are friends. But generally, like in the morning, they go on arms round, then they eat their meal. And after eating the meal, each of them will go and find a secluded place where they can meditate alone. Then when the sun goes down, they will come to the most senior monk to discuss Dhamma. They have so much respect for Dhamma that every night they will discuss Dhamma. Even after they have become enlightened, they will still discuss Dhamma. Their love and respect for Dhamma is very great. So here, Venerable Sariputta is most senior. So Venerable Mahathera went to him and asked him, what are the things that a good monk should attend to, pay attention to? Venerable Sariputta said, "Friend Kotita, a virtuous monk should carefully attend to the 5 aggregates of clinging, of attachment, as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dart, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty, as not self." What 5? The body aggregate of attachment, the feeling aggregate, perception, volition, consciousness aggregate of attachment. A virtuous monk should carefully attend to these 5 aggregates of attachment as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dart, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty, as not self. When friend, a virtuous monk carefully attends thus to these 5 aggregates of attachment, it is possible that he may realize the fruit of stream entry. Stop here for a moment. So here you see, Venerable Sariputta says that we should reflect on the 5 aggregates of attachment as impermanent. They keep changing. Because they keep changing, they are a source of suffering. And they can be considered like a disease, like a sickness. Why is a sickness? Because it's changing and it's getting older and disintegrating like our body. And also a disease gives us pain, gives us annoyance. So our 5 aggregates also give us annoyance. For example, feelings, unpleasant feelings, annoy us. As a tumor, like a cancer, our body and our mind is like a cancer. Anytime I can die. As a dart is something that pokes us, gives us pain. As misery, it is a source of misery and also pleasure. But how much pleasure we enjoy from our body and our mind is never enough. When the misery comes, a little bit also we cannot stand already. As an affliction, as alien, this one is interesting, as alien. Why is the body and mind alien? We think the body and mind is I and mind. But you only realize it is alien when we meditate and we go into our mind. When we go deeper and deeper into our mind, slowly you realize that the body fades away from you. The world fades away from you. Actually, the world and the body, everything is all in consciousness, in the 6th consciousness. And as we go deeper into our mind, the 6th consciousness fades away from us. We are not paying attention to the 6th consciousness. So that's why because the body and the mind can fade away. So it's alien. It's actually alien to our internal, as disintegrating. It's breaking up, especially as we grow old. It's empty of itself. There is no core inside our body and our mind that we can identify. This is me, because it's not changing. But everything within our body and mind keeps changing and keeps changing. If you identify anything in your body and mind as this is I or this is mine, very soon it will disintegrate and pass away. So where did that I and mind go to? So that's why it's empty of a self. There's not self or non-self. No self in there to be found. So Venerable Sariputta says, an ordinary monk, a good monk, if he contemplates the five aggregates carefully, with all these characteristics, basically that it's impermanent and it's a source of suffering and it's not self. These three characteristics. So if you see that in the five aggregates, then that monk, he is likely to attain Sotapanna, fruit of stream entry. But friend Sariputta, what are the things that a monk who is a stream enterer should carefully attend to? One who has attained Sotapanna, what should he contemplate next? Friend Kotita, a monk who is a stream enterer should carefully attend to these five aggregates of attachment as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, etc. When friend, a monk who is a stream enterer or a Sotapanna carefully attends thus to these five aggregates of attachment, it is possible that he may realize the fruit of one's returning. That means if he contemplates the five aggregates carefully in the same way as impermanent, as suffering, as not self, then it is possible that he may attain Sakadagamin, fruit of one's returning. But friend Sariputta, what are the things that a monk who is a once returner should carefully attend to? Friend Kotita, a monk who is a once returner should carefully attend to these five aggregates of attachment as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dark, etc. And friend, a monk who is a once returner carefully attends thus to these five aggregates of attachment. It is possible that he may realize the fruit of non-returning. So here, Venerable Sariputta says that a Sakadagamin should also contemplate the five aggregates of attachment in the same way. And if he does so, he may become an Anagamin. But friend Sariputta, what are the things that a monk who is a non-returner should carefully attend to? Friend Kotita, a monk who is a non-returner should carefully attend to these five aggregates of attachment as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dark, etc. And friend, a monk who is a non-returner carefully attends thus to these five aggregates of attachment. It is possible that he may realize the fruit of arahantship. So here, even Anagamin should contemplate these five aggregates of attachment carefully as impermanent, suffering, and not self, and he may attain Arahanthood. Friend Sariputta, what are the things that a monk who is an Arahant should carefully attend to? Friend Kotita, a monk who is an Arahant should carefully attend to these five aggregates of attachment as impermanent, as suffering, as a disease, as a tumor, as a dark, as misery, as an affliction, as alien, as disintegrating, as empty, as not self. For the Arahant friend, there is nothing further that has to be done, and no repetition of what he has already done. However, when these things are developed and cultivated, they lead to a pleasant dwelling in this very life, and to recollection and awareness. So that's the end of the sutta. So here, the point that Venerable Sariputta is stressing is that contemplation of the five aggregates is very important for everybody. From the ordinary Putujana, ordinary whirling right up to the Arahant. Also, we should all constantly contemplate the 5 aggregates of attachment. And they will lead you higher and higher until Arahanthood. So, we have finished the very important Khandha Samyutta. Just to summarize, recollect the basic teachings in the Khandha Samyutta is that we always attach to the body and mind, which can be called the 5 aggregates, as I and mind. So when we attach to the 5 aggregates, and they must change because everything in the world will change. So when they change and we attach to them, we don't want them to change, and they give us suffering. So we have to see that they are impermanent and they are the source of suffering, and they are not self because we have no control over them. They must disintegrate and break up and die. So we should not attach to them. And there are so many suttas in this Khandha Samyutta has explained so clearly, very clear similes. And so if we go again through the suttas, we will understand these 5 aggregates better. You see, the 5 aggregates, because they are the source of they are the object of our attachment. So, if we want to end suffering, we have to cut craving, because craving is the source of suffering. Craving is the reason for repeated rebirth. So, craving attaches itself to the 5 aggregates. So if we want to cut the craving, we have to understand the 5 aggregates well. And then only we are willing to release our attachment to the 5 aggregates. That's why it's very important to understand the 5 aggregates very well. And then earlier we studied the dependent origination, how suffering is dependent on many factors. So then understanding that, we know that to end suffering, we also have to cut the links in dependent origination. Later, we'll come to another very important section of the Buddha's teachings dealing with the salayatana, the 6 sense bases. The 6 sense bases we have to consider from a different angle. Why? Because our feelings, which is our source of suffering, arises because of contact at the 6 sense bases. And there is contact at the eye, the ear, the nose, tongue, body and mind. Feeling arises. So, if we don't want suffering, we have to limit these 6, the contact. If you have too much contact, then a lot of feelings arise. So more suffering arises. So for example, if a person is a very busy businessman, it's very difficult to limit your contact. You have to contact so many people, you have to think of this, think of that, and all that, and you have to be so busy. So because of more contact, you have more chances of suffering. That's why a person on the spiritual path, he renounces the world. He doesn't want to have so much contact with the world. So when you limit your contact at the 6 sense basis, and then you limit your chances of suffering. So later we will go to that, the other aspect, the 6 sense bases.